prayer, all will please remain standing and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America by Michael Adams, Director of Human Resources, Senate Clerk's Office.
Mr. President, in our country, we're experiencing divisiveness, depression, and disheartenment, growing into anger, hatred, and even violence that we have seen in our nation's capital. Now we need reconciliation and unity. So it's appropriate to hear the Serenity Prayer. The Serenity Prayer was written by Reinhold Niebuhr, my favorite theologian, whom I studied and who taught at Union Theological Seminary in New York City when I studied there before I went to law school. So please bow your heads to hear the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Good evening, Mr. President.
Good
nice
evening,
to see you,
Senator.
sir. I
Good
would
evening.
respectfully move that the rules of the Senate be suspended consistent with the motion that we adopted on the first day of the session, allowing senators to participate electronically and remotely, sir.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the rules be suspended? All in favor of suspending the rules will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Senator Vogel votes aye. Madam Clerk, your room is muted, so I can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. Senator Vogel, can you hear us?
Senator Vogel, I'm not muted.
It's okay. Senator Vogel, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. I was dialing Jonathan to say, please unmute. Yes, Mr. President, I can hear you. You are now unmuted. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. And Senator, we'll have you vote on the next vote on the roll call vote. And I think we've
Sorry, I
closed.
thought you were voting. Yeah, Mr. President, I apologize. I realize I'm not permitted to vote on the previous vote. I looked up and I thought it was a roll call because you were a half an inch of screen. Sorry.
No worries. Good. I'm glad everybody can hear each other now. So I think the vote there was 38 aye, no 0. The rules are suspended. The clerk will call the roll. All those in attendance will please record their vote aye.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Monday, January 25th, 2021.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1.
Ayes 38, noes 1. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the House of Delegates. The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that we waive the reading of the communications from the House of Delegates.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 3.
Ayes 36, noes 3. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. Clerk will report any communication from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Yes. Chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the rules be suspended, that the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and the House Joint Resolution 628 be taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the titles be waived, and House Joint Resolution number 628 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the resolution be agreed to.
Question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolution will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The resolution is agreed to. The time for the joint order for certain judicial and other elections has arrived, and the Senate, on its part, is ready to proceed with the execution of House Joint Resolution number 628. Nominations are now in order for judges of the respective circuit courts. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, that the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 99 be taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 99 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the reading of the amendment be the reading of the amendment be waived.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading is waived. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move the amendment be agreed to, and by way of explanation,
Senator, the floor.
Yeah, Senator Chafin, of course, no longer is with us, and therefore I nominate the Honorable Jack S. Hurley, Jr. of Tazewell to be judge of the 29th Judicial Circuit for a term of 8 years commencing February the 1st, 2021.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. Chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the resolution be ordered to be engrossed and agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the resolution be ordered to be engrossed and agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is ordered to be engrossed and agreed to. Nominations are now in order for judges of the respective general district courts. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution Number 100 be taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution Number 100 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Oh, Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the resolution be agreed to.
Question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolution will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Nominations are now in order for judges of the respective juvenile and domestic relations district courts. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution Number 101 be taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution Number 101 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move the reading of the amendments be waived.
Question is, shall the reading of the amendments be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the amendments is waived. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move the amendments be agreed to, and by way of explanation,
Senator has the floor.
because of the death of Senator Chafin, I nominate Michael J. Bush of Russell County and Martha P. Ketron of Russell County.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are agreed to. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move the resolution be ordered to be engrossed and agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the resolution be ordered to be engrossed and agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is ordered to be engrossed and agreed to. Nominations are now in order for members of the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission. The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 102 be taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 102 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I yield to the senator from Eastern Fairfax.
Chair recognizes the senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Servell.
Mr. Chairman, I move the waive reading of the amendment.
The question is, shall the reading of the amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the amendment is waived. Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Servell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the amendment. Speaking to that motion.
Senator, the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment just strikes one of the members off the nominations for the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission. This is a volunteer position. It doesn't affect anybody's permanent employment, but that's what it does.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from James City County, Senator Norment, rise?
Mr. President, I would respectfully ask if the senator from Eastern Fairfax would yield for a question or two.
Will the senator yield?
I'll yield.
Senator yield. You have the floor.
Mr. President, with all due respect, this is a little bit of an unusual amendment, and I would appreciate a substantive explanation as to why you are inclined to remove this gentleman from this position.
Senator, is the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would say that, first of all, the Judicial Review and Inquiry and Review Commission is a commission that oversees the ethics of judges. I believe there's 7 members, I think. 7. I think there's 2 judges, 2 civilians, and 2 somebody else. Judge Plowman was only put on, I think, about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, because he only became a judge about a year ago to fill an unexpired term of someone else. We replaced, I believe it was a different member last year, which was selected by what was then the majority caucus. I believe it was Marcia Garst, I think it was, and I think we replaced her as well. Again, this is a volunteer commission. The people who serve on it serve at the will of this body, and there's obviously the majority of the body has changed since he was selected, and the will of this caucus is to put somebody else on. So that's the explanation.
Further question?
Mr. President, if the gentleman would yield for another question.
Senator yield.
I'll yield.
Senator yield. You have the floor.
Mr. President, I would preface my question by saying that I respect the prerogatives of majorities, regardless who they may be at what point in time. But I am sure it's due to my advanced age and the fact that my new hearing aid on my right ear seems to have exhausted its battery life. And I didn't hear the substantive provision other than the fact you just don't want him there. Is there some specific incident or decision that he has participated in or has failed to participate in that you think disqualifies him from a credential standpoint of going on the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission?
Senator, is the floor.
Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President, I'm sorry, appreciate the question, and I'm sure as the senator from James City County well knows, the proceedings of the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission are all confidential, and so it's almost impossible to figure out what they do or how they do it or what was decided or not decided, because nobody gets to see it except for the people that are on that commission unless they decide to render a public judgment, which is exceedingly rare. In fact, in the 24 years I've practiced law, I cannot really articulate anything public the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission has ever done. So it's really kind of a black box over there. So in terms of his performance, it's almost impossible to really articulate that. I would just say that, again, this is a body which the members who serve on it serve on a voluntary basis. They're not compensated for their service, and there's no employment consequence or income consequence. We don't view these positions as being the same as judgeships, because it's not a judgeship. It's like a board or commission, like anything else, where the governor has the pleasure of deciding who serves on it, and this caucus decided they wanted somebody else to serve, and that's the explanation. There is no other explanation for it.
Further question?
Mr. President, I thank the gentleman for that very thin and non-transparent answer.
Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding the floor amendment? Seeing none, the question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. Chair is uncertain. We will have a recorded vote. Question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes no.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. The floor amendment is agreed to. Chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move the resolution be agreed to.
Does the senator want to also order it to be engrossed and agreed to?
I move that the resolution be engrossed and ordered to be engrossed and agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the resolution be ordered to be engrossed and agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is ordered to be engrossed and agreed to. Nominations are now in order for members of the State Corporation Commission. The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that the rules be suspended, the Committee on Commerce and Labor be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, that the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution 103 be taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on Commerce and Labor be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 103 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Chair recognizes the senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that the rules be agreed to, that the rules are that the resolution be agreed to.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolution will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. Nominations are now in order for the Auditor of Public Accounts. Chair recognizes the senator from Bath, Senator Dees.
Mr. President, I move that the rules be suspended, the Committee on Privileges and Elections be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the readings of the title be waived, and Senate Resolution number 93 be taken up for immediate consideration.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended, the Committee on Privileges and Elections be discharged from further consideration of the resolution, the reading of the titles be waived, and Senate Resolution number 93 be taken up for immediate consideration? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, no 0. The rules are suspended to take up the resolution for immediate consideration. Chair recognizes Senator from Bass. Senator Deeds.
I move that the resolution be agreed to.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolution will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. The desk staff will now communicate to the House of Delegates. The clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Tuesday, January 26, 2021. Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on third reading.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Sasslaw.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate bills on third reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 1 through 6, that's Senate Bill 1154 through Senate Bill 1427, be placed on their final passage in a block, and any senator desiring to move a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar third reading, pages 1 through 6, Senate Bill 1154 through Senate Bill 1427, be placed upon their final passage in the block with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 1154, Senate Bill 1169, Senate Bill 1187, Senate Bill 1189, Senate Bill 1205, Senate Bill 1213, Senate Bill 1242, Senate Bill 1271, Senate Bill 1296, Senate Bill 1320, Senate Bill 1324, Senate Bill 1369, Senate Bill 1399, Senate Bill 1421, Senate Bill 1427.
Question is, shall the bills in the block pass? All in favor of passage of the bills will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will now close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 1291, a bill relating to the Virginia Water Protection Permit, efficient water use.
Senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 1291 pass. And speaking of the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we heard a little bit about this yesterday, and this is an effort that if you're reapplying or applying for a surface water withdrawal permit, that you establish a water auditing plan and a leak detection and repair plan. So we heard a couple things yesterday and may hear some more today from the senator from King George, who makes a point that we have two users that are dominant users. But I want to submit, Mr. President, that this is more than nibbling around the edges. The top 10 that we're most concerned about in the eastern groundwater management area, east of 95, have about 2.1 million gallons per day that we're missing, unaccounted for. West of 95, that number is about 4.48 million. So we're talking about 6.5 million gallons of water that, because of system issues, are being unaccounted for. So this is, again, just an effort to work with areas to say, make sure you've got a plan in place, make sure you've got a schedule of appointment, and we've gone back to the Administrative Process Act. So we laid out in the original bill like 17 lines of what we suggested. That'll all be done through hearings and through discussions. So, Mr. President, this is not an effort to push small areas to make immediate changes, spend a bunch of money. But fixing these systems is like buying a new mattress. You wake up in the morning, your back feels a lot better, but you can't tell anybody or show them your neat new mattress because no one cares. Unfortunately, a lot of our areas, the senator from Bedford question, we talked about Lynchburg. Lynchburg is not impacted. They are grandfathered. But they, like my city of Williamsburg, have got old structures, old infrastructure, and old piping. So, Mr. President, this is an important step. I will make sure the gentleman from Northern Chesapeake understands that if he can get a seatmate sitting in front of him from Hanover to join me this spring, we'll keep an eye on the golf courses for him and make sure that they're not improperly impacted. So with that, Mr. President, I ask you to pass the bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the senator from Williamsburg yield for a question?
Great. Senator Yield?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, I yield.
Senator Yield, you have the floor.
Could the senator explain the difference between this bill, which would require the DEQ to approve an auditing plan, versus the existing authority of the Virginia Department of Health, VDH, which oversees drinking water, and to perhaps assure the body that there's no duplication of efforts?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I thank the gentleman for the question, because I forgot to mention that has been brought to light, that the Department of Health manages and reviews the quality of the water system. But this is the withdrawal permit. And so the withdrawal permitting is all done through DEQ. So we're trying to do this on the front side so we know what we're working with and how we're dealing with it. But it will not impact the Department of Health's continuing monitoring of the quality of the water and the infrastructure.
Mr. President, I thank the gentleman.
Thank the Senator for the question.
Thank you. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1291? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1291 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes no.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 17.
Ayes 22, noes 17. Senate Bill 1291 passes.
Senate Bill 1121, a bill relating to birth certificates amendments.
Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 1121 pass, and speaking to that.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 1121 simplifies the process by which individuals can make corrections to their birth certificates. It creates an administrative process through Vital Records where they establish an online process for individuals to correct errors where they have a credible evidence of changes that can be made, and that's simply what this bill does. And I move that it pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1121? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1121 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 29, noes 10.
Ayes 29, noes 10. Senate Bill 1121 passes.
Senate Bill 1220, a bill relating to state hospitals' admission of certain aliens.
Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the bill pass, and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this bill does is it removes a requirement that has been long-standing on our books, and it is a requirement that if an individual is seeking mental health treatment in one of our 13 state-run facilities, that person must respond to questions regarding his or her immigration status, and if the individual is documented or undocumented, that information is turned over to ICE. And another provision that is also being repealed is a clerk of a court would be required to turn over any information that a judge may order related to a treatment, a mental health treatment, if the individual, again, is documented or undocumented. So, ladies and gentlemen, this law is just a vestige of a very old, archaic time when we actually were stigmatizing mental health treatment. And it was long before we had a realization about the value of privacy when it comes to our medical records. I would remind the body that in no other medical treatment do we ask the immigration status. So this is the only place, is when an individual is seeking mental health treatment, that we actually ask for their immigration status. And I also want to note that we are one of, there are only 2 states now in the entire United States that still have this law on the books. It's Virginia and South Carolina. If there is some concern that an individual who may have been convicted of a felony, if those records would not be shared, they would be shared with ICE. And there's actually sections of the code that talk about when somebody is actually convicted, how those records are shared. But I think the point here is that if individuals need treatment, or if a judge determines that a treatment should be part of a package or part of a decision regarding certain actions of an individual, we want that individual to seek the treatment. It is in everybody's well-being. It is in the well-being of the public health. And I ask that the bill pass once again. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal, rise?
Mr. President, would the senator yield for a question?
Will Senator yield?
Yes, I will yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
Mr. President, I'd ask the senator, does this include if somebody is found not guilty for as a result of mental incapacity in a criminal case, that the clerk could not forward that record as well?
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my understanding that we'd have to refer to the criminal code in the situation you asked for. In 53.1-219, it talks about actually being convicted. So that is my understanding on that point.
Mr. Chairman, further question, yes.
Senator yields.
Yes, I will yield.
Senator yields. You have the floor.
So, Mr. President, I'd ask the senator, so technically that finding by a judge or jury is not guilty as the result of insanity. I think it's NGI is what it's called. So because it's not guilty, then that means it would not be communicated.
Senator has the floor.
I do not have an answer to that specific question because it would require delving into the criminal code. I am only amending a code that is in our behavioral health statutes, and so there's the crosswalk, I think, is something that would have to be delved into at a later point. I would prefer that we amend the criminal code if that is one of your issues.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank the senator.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. To speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
I hope to be able to clarify this, but as I understand it, if criminal justice is involved in adjudicating an individual, they will be responsible for connecting with ICE. This is an isolated situation where a patient comes to a hospital seeking care, and healthcare providers in every other part of the code, healthcare providers have been absolved from needing to report an individual when really their job is to take care of that individual. So this bill only seeks to, as I understand it and have read it and have seen it in committee, to remove the requirement of a healthcare center or healthcare provider reporting independent of any criminal justice affairs that happen. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1220? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1220 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 25, noes 14.
Ayes 25, noes 14. Senate Bill 1220 passes.
Senate Bill 1256, a bill relating to membership on Criminal Justice Services Board and Committee on Training, Law Enforcement Training.
Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 1256 pass. And speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill makes two minor adjustments to existing law regarding the membership and duties of the Department of Criminal Justice Services Board. On line 283, it deals with the duties, and it adds frequency of retraining to the duty of establishing in-service training standards by the board. There are some things, Mr. President, that people need to be trained in only once. There are things that they need to be trained in yearly, and there are some things that need to be retrained every several years, such as de-escalation and restraint. And so I just wanted to make sure that the board understood that it wasn't just a question of what was trained, but how often it needed to be reinforced with retraining. The other amendment on line 324, the other change on line 324, 325, it deals with membership. It further defines that a member of a social justice organization is engaged in advancing inclusion and human rights. It's just a furtherance of the definition of a social justice organization. And I reiterate my motion that the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard? For what purpose, Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenchain, rise.
Mr. President, speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this is a further change from legislation that we considered during a special session. And as members may recall, there was language originally in this bill. I think the senator from Arlington maybe introduced it. I can't recall. But it said that it had to be a representative from a civil rights organization. Question was raised as to what kind of civil rights organization, whether it was content neutral, whether it meant somebody who's standing up for any of our civil rights without regard to ideological focus. And the answer was yes. Then upon some reflection, the other side decided that that's not such a good idea. We need this not to be quite as content neutral, and that language was changed. Apparently, the language that it was changed to wasn't clear enough that the member for this Criminal Justice Services Board has to reflect a very specific ideological focus. So make no mistake, I mean, I understand what this does, but I want to make sure that all of the members understand what this does. This requires somebody to be marching in accord with certain ideologically driven folks. And heck, if there is a Republican governor who's elected, which I hope and pray, maybe there is, that we wind up having a hard time because of bite your finger there, Senator Sasslaw. But I hope and pray that there is, but I think that we need to think about this before we start writing ideological content and ideological requirements into the code. Because if we do this, we've got a whole lot of organizations. I don't want to give the other side an idea, but there are a whole lot of boards and commissions that we're just going to be writing ideological requirements into this code, and I think this is a bad precedent and a road down which we should not be going.
Mr. President?
Senator from Western Fairfax.
Thank
Senator
you, Mr.
Mars.
President. I think the only intent here was to deal with organizations involved in inclusion of others as opposed to potentially exclusion. So it really didn't deal with a ideological bent, but more about being involved in including people as opposed to excluding people, and that's all the amendment does. And I urge the bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1256? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1256 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes no.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 18.
Ayes 21, noes 18. Senate Bill 1256 passes.
Senate Bill 1322, a bill relating to public schools, seizure management, and action plan biennial training.
Senior Senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeStaff.
Mr. President, I move the passage of Senate Bill 1322 and speaking to that.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, Senate Bill 1322 is the seizure bill or the Jamie Bree Strong Act, as we've heard it a few times. Same bill passed out of this body last year at 38-2. Seizures are among the top 3 of school medical emergencies. American Academy of Pediatrics reported 1 in 10 will experience a seizure, 1 in 26 will develop epilepsy, and the first seizure can be in school. 11,000 school-aged children in Virginia have epilepsy. An epileptic diagnosis is not required to have a seizure. Seizures can be caused by many acute and chronic health conditions beyond epilepsy. Remember, 1 in 10 have seizures. Seizures can happen anywhere, anytime, and with anyone. Minutes and seconds count during a seizure, and they can be deadly. Due to the stigma with an epileptic diagnosis, oftentimes students with the diagnosis and their caregivers do not come forward and pursue a 504 plan or an IEP. Not every student that is diagnosed requires an IEP plan or a 504 plan. An IEP or a 504 plan, because accommodations and/or modifications are not required for academic success. So this bill does 3 things, Mr. President. Provides the submission and utilization of seizure management plan, action plans for students with seizure disorders. It requires that schools train those who have regular contact with a student, go through biennial or every other year, train on the treatment of students with seizures and seizure disorders. The bill provides immunity from civil liberty and acts or omissions related to providing the care of a student under a seizure management plan of action. And remember, the training for this is paid for by the Epilepsy Foundation. With that, Mr. President, I move the passage of Senate Bill 1322, and if liked, I can go on for another 20 or 30 minutes.
Thank the senator. You good? Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1322? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1322 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 35, noes 4.
Ayes 35, noes 4. Senate Bill 1322 passes.
Senate Bill 1343, a bill relating to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, record exclusion for proprietary records and trade secrets, carbon sequestration agreements.
Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass and speaking to that measure.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, Senate Bill 1343 provides a record exclusion for proprietary records and trade secrets in carbon sequestration agreements. We passed this exact exclusion for solar energy agreements in 2017, I think with only 1 no vote. The goal is to incentivize protection of our forests and reforestation, and to incentivize more capital investment in the carbon markets. And it's a tool that we're trying to give our local IDAs and EDAs. And so with that, I move the bill's passage.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard regarding Senate Bill 1343? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 1343 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. Senate Bill 1343 passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar, that's pages 8 through 11, Senate Bill 1098 through 1414, be advanced to their engrossment in third reading in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 8 through 11, Senate Bill 1098 through Senate Bill 1414, be engrossed in advance to their third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring a bill be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 1098, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1126, reported from the Committee on Rules. Senate Bill 1172, reported from the Committee on Rules. Senate Bill 1214, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1253, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1277, reported from the Committee on Transportation. Senate Bill 1297, reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services. Senate Bill 1335, reported from the Committee on Transportation, and we have a floor substitute.
Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move we waive reading of the floor substitute.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor substitute is waived. Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move the floor substitute be adopted. And speaking to that,
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this bill was supposed to be a cleanup bill for learners permit holders and the hands-free legislation that we adopted last year. They actually were treated differently. But as the bill passed out of committee upon some questions that I received in committee and some further emails, I and others have determined that rather than actually striking out certain parts of language in paragraph E of the bill, we'd be better off to delete the whole paragraph E found within the bill, and we do a better job of cleaning this up. So the issue was a learner's permit holder could actually pick up their phone under certain instances where an adult driver cannot now, and we want them to be treated the same. So with the adoption, the long and short is with the adoption of this floor substitute, we fix this problem and everybody's treated the same with regard to hands-free driving. I'd move the adoption of the substitute.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the floor substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor substitute is adopted.
Senate Bill 1408, reported from the Committee on Rules. Senate Bill 1414, reported from the Committee on Rules.
The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed in advance to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed in advance to their third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 1355, a bill to allow the withdrawal of a member of the Rapidan Service Authority.
Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill could use a little more work, a couple amendments that I would like to suggest to it, and since the Local Government Committee is going to be meeting at least one more time, I think it would be better to work on it in committee, so I would move that the bill be re-referred to the Local Government Committee.
Okay. Thank the Senator. Question is, shall the bill be recommitted to the Local Government Committee? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is recommitted to the Committee on Local Government.
Senate Bill 1199, a bill relating to conservation easements, construction. We have reported from the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources with amendments, and there is a floor substitute.
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to reprise the debate from yesterday other than I had moved my floor amendment, which struck the word liberally and just left the original bill as construed in favor of the purpose for which it was intended. And I'm going to let my colleague make his oration, and then as necessary I will respond, but I will move that we accept the committee amendment, and by doing so de facto reject the floor substitute.
Thank the Senator. Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the matter.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the body, I won't retread new ground either, but I just want to remind folks the whole issue about this is the gentleman's bill would change a rule of construction which absolutely changes the rights you'd be left with if you give an easement on your property. And it's for an honorable cause that he's doing it. This issue, somebody was able to buy a farm with an easement on it, and they developed it. And all of us agree that we don't want that to happen. And I don't know how it happened, because in most easements it says you can't develop this property. You can't subdivide it. You can't build more than one house or two houses. And so I don't know what happened there, but I say again, we don't want to infringe on the few remaining rights you have in that property, because by and large you give all of your rights away when you put an easement on it. And the gentleman was teasing me yesterday after we let out a session. He said, tomorrow you're going to talk about the American flag, aren't you? And I thought, you know what? That's a great idea. And so let's use that as an example. I have an easement, and the easement says that I can't develop it, I can't subdivide it, I can farm it, I can timber it, I can't do all these other things, but it doesn't say whether or not I can put a flag. And I decide I want to put a flag. I want the American flag at the top, and I either want an NRA flag or I want a Black Lives Matter flag. Well, what happens? I'm subject to the ideology of the person, the governmental entity that holds that easement then, because it doesn't say what I can put up. And if I go to court, I lose. And so my personal preference, we appreciate our freedom in this room. And if I want either of those two flags with the American flag, I now am subjected to the ideology of a government agency. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's what we want. I agree with the gentleman that we want to stop somebody from developing this property. Nobody wants that to happen, but this isn't the right way to do it. And I would further tell you that if you read the provision in the Constitution regarding the abridgment of contract, this squarely fits in it, because the government is changing the rules ex post facto. And I believe that very, very strongly. I think this approaches a taking if it is not. I would hope that the gentleman would reconsider his position, and let's try to get to a good way to make sure that what happened in Albemarle County doesn't happen again. But short of that, I'd ask that you adopt the floor substitute and reject the committee amendment.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose is the Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain, rise?
Mr. President, speaking of the floor amendment.
Senator's the floor.
Mr. President, I will not spend a lot of time on this, but I'll tell you, as somebody who has been interested in property rights for a long time and somebody who's been interested in agriculture, I've struggled with this. I've gotten emails from friends who I trust who have frankly given me conflicting advice about it. And I've talked to some of them and I've asked them, how would this apply in actuality? And Senator Stewart raised an example yesterday that I will hark back to. Right now, as Senator from Fairfax City described this, right now, if there's an easement on my property, if I give a conservation easement that is intended to preserve the view shed, okay, the pretty views that exist in my part of Rockingham County, and I decide, and I give it, right now, if it's ambiguous, it's going to be interpreted against the party that I give it to. This is going to say it's going to be interpreted in favor of the party I give it to. So right now, let's just say, as Senator Stewart posited yesterday, I decide I'm going to have, or I would never make such a decision, but if my daughter and wife decided that my daughter was going to have a wedding on my property, and the holder of the easement said, you know what, that one event, not just because you're setting up an event center, because you're not, but that one event is contrary to the terms of that easement. If the holder were to come in and say, look, this easement was intended to preserve the view shed, right now, I think a court would likely say, it's ambiguous, we're going to construe it against the holder of that easement. Under this legislation, court's going to say, look, I don't think I have a choice. I have to construe it against you. You may not have that wedding there because this easement is to be strictly construed against you in favor of the viewshed purpose. Now, there is a remedy for this, and the remedy was stated by the senator from Fairfax City yesterday. The remedy is be clear. Be clear. These decisions only have to be made in the event that the easement is ambiguous. So I would respectfully submit that the Supreme Court of Virginia has actually instructed drafters of easements. They have been very clear to the drafters of easements, be clear. Be clear in drafting these easements and we will enforce them. But if you're not clear, we're not going to step on the rights of the property owner. That's what this does. And I love my friend, the senator from Fairfax City, and he and I usually link arms on property rights issues. But I respectfully submit that this is one, and I know I'm going to upset some of my friends who have emailed me about this, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about it and a lot of time talking to people about it, and I've posed that example. And I've been told, yeah, you know what? I think that easement would be construed against you. So I would urge the body to vote for Senator from King George's substitute.
Thank the senator. For what purpose, Senator from Bass? Senator Deeds rise.
Mr. President, I'd like to speak to the senator's floor amendment, which I believe, or committee amendment, which I believe was before the floor.
Senator, the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, about 21 years ago, the senator from Augusta and I was in the other body at that time, introduced legislation that tied a tax credit to the conservation easement. A couple years later, the then Speaker of the House from Stafford County introduced legislation that made that tax credit transferable, and since that time, this has been the most successful voluntary conservation program in the country. It's something we all ought to be very proud. The current state of the law that the senator from Fairfax City attempts to fix is such that the billions of dollars that have been invested in the tax credit program over the years are at risk because of court decisions. Now, I introduced legislation last year that would have very literally said that these easements are to be construed against the grantor, against the landowner, and with that legislation, the senator from Rockingham and the senator from Prince William or King William or King George, wherever, from the Northern Neck, the arguments they make would have been correct against that legislation. And that legislation was defeated on the floor of the Senate last year. It was defeated in committee and resurrected and then defeated on the floor of the Senate. But this legislation is different. What it says is that the easements are to be construed in favor of achieving the conservation purposes for which the easement was created. That doesn't have anything to do with the flag. That has to do with the conservation easement, conservation purposes for which the easement was created. This is a common sense piece of legislation, and I would ask you to adopt the amendment proposed by the senator from Fairfax City, and let's get on to passing this bill.
For what purpose is the senator from Eastern Fairfax? Senator Surville rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to the floor substitute.
The committee amendment?
Oh, the committee amendment. Okay, speaking to the committee amendment.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I heard a legal argument erupt, so I had to jump in. I feel rather conflicted here because I'm having to choose amongst friends here, but yeah, I don't. But here's how I come at this. Y'all might remember I carried a bill, I think it was about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, one of my bills. It had to do with divorce agreements, and it had to do with alimony. And there was a Court of Appeals case that came down, I don't know, about 10 years ago that said if you have an alimony spousal support paragraph in a contract and it's silent as to whether or not the support can be modified, then you cannot modify it. So in other words, it says if you have to pay somebody $2,000 a month and it does not say anything about modification in the future, you're stuck with it for life, period. And that was a Court of Appeals decision because the law was ambiguous, and that's what the court said. We passed a statute that said that if you want support to be not modifiable like that, then you need to put words in the contract to say that, or else it is modifiable. However, when we did it, we said it only applies to contracts written after July 1 of 2018 going forward. Because if we hadn't done that, we would have completely turned the world upside down for everybody who'd written their contracts before that, assuming a certain legal reality, which we had just changed. And under the Constitution of Virginia and the United States Constitution, it specifically says that we, the legislature, cannot rewrite contracts for people. It's just not allowed because we're messing with people's vested interests. The government can't come in and undo a contractual arrangement you've already agreed to. That's been the law for 2 centuries now. So that was why we did it prospectively only in that scenario. And also just note that, because it's also fair, but I would also just note that under our law, once you have a vested property right, if the government seeks to take that right away from you, they have to pay you for it. And that's what you call a taking. And so, in some circumstances, if we come back and change the law, that can create cost. Now, I don't know whether this constitutes a taking or not. That's up to a judge. But from a legal perspective, I worry a lot about changing the rules of construction about contracts that are already written because of the consequences it has. And I would also note that with regard to statutes in terms of how the courts interpret them and whether they interpret them retroactively or not, if it deals with a substantive right, it is not interpreted retroactively. If it's a procedural change, it can be interpreted retroactively. This statute, as it's written right now, is silent as to whether or not it's retroactive or not. It doesn't say anything in here. And so if this passes without the amendments, I think the first thing that's going to happen is some lawsuits all around and maybe conflicting decisions out of judges or whatever, trying to figure out if this applies retroactively or not, because it doesn't say. So I would just say that, I totally agree with the policy objectives of this. I think the policy objectives are totally worthwhile. They're totally needed. I strongly believe in conservation easements. I think we ought to do everything we can to protect them. But I suspect there might be an easier way to deal with this, like, for example, by changing the tax policy. Maybe you change the tax rules if somebody comes back and does something we didn't expect, as opposed to rewriting their contracts. So That's where my lawyer brain kicks in, and that's how I see it. This method to me just gives me concern constitutionally and as a matter of fairness. And I'm going to have to be on the other side of my former law partner here, but every once in a while we're on the other side of things. This won't be the first, won't be the last either, but that's how I come out on this.
Thank the senator. Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I was going to say, let me speak to the measure. If Senator from Eastern Fairfax was speaking in favor of my amendment, I can only say two words: you're fired. But let me address the substance. The rule of construction addresses ambiguities in contract. Ambiguities. And by the way, can I just mention I made all of my notes in this past argument with my Jen Kiggins for State Senate pen. Thank you. Ambiguities. In other words, the contract does not express a right, it does not reserve a right. There is no property right in an ambiguity. There's no property right in an ambiguity. This, by definition, is something that is not covered by the contract. It's an unforeseen circumstance. And so what happens is we look at the fact that there was a purpose for this easement. It was given for a purpose. What was the purpose? To conserve land. Now, why is this different from the situation that Senator Surville described? Because these are not private parties. This is not Mr. and Mrs. Smith who went through a divorce and is there alimony or is there not alimony? We're not involved in that. That's a private contract. This is a public investment. There was public money invested. Senator Deeds is exactly correct. There are billions of dollars invested in these easements that, again, where property owners voluntarily came to the state to take a tax credit. And these easements, by the way, are held by private entities typically. The Virginia Outdoors Foundation is a private 501c3. So they came, they voluntarily put this easement. All we're saying is that these instruments, which are in courthouses all over the Commonwealth, should be interpreted for the purpose in which they were intended, to conserve land. Now, my colleague, Senator Stewart, raises a point that if you want to put up the American flag or Black Lives Matter flag or any flag you want, that doesn't go against the conservation purpose. The land is still undeveloped. You're still farming it. You put up a campaign sign, re-elect Richard Stewart, that doesn't in any way negate the conservation purpose. So the bottom line is I trust our fact finders, our judges, to figure that out. They can figure that out. And if he wants to have a wedding for his daughter, I don't see why not. Hopefully he'll invite me, so I'll be there. But if he wants to start a professional wedding venue, that might be a little bit different. The bottom line is our judges can figure this out, but what is important is that we give them guidance. And what is important is that we give them guidance in a way to protect the taxpayer for the exact reasons that Senator Deeds referenced. So, again, we've gone on a long time on this, and I know all the top legal minds are opposed to me. I'm very familiar with Article 1, Section 11, which is how we preserve contractual rights. Again, there's no property right in an ambiguity. You didn't reserve that right, okay? The bottom line is this is an unforeseen situation. We're just giving guidance to the court to protect the state taxpayer. Please pass my amendment. Thank you.
President.
Mr. President. For what purpose?
Ask a question.
Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
The senator from Fairfax City yield for.
Will the senator yield?
Yeah.
Senator yield. You have the floor.
And I apologize for asking this, but the senator from Fairfax City was very adamant that this is not a contract between private parties. But I would ask, Mr. President, the gentleman if, in fact, he doesn't acknowledge that in virtually every case, these are contracts between an individual landowner and a private party who is acquiring the easement.
Senator has the floor.
I think what I said was this is different than a private contract in that the state taxpayer has an interest in it. In other words, it's a publicly funded tax credit. So even if it's I think I mentioned that a lot of these charities are private 501c3s, but there's a public investment involved.
Mr. President, simply speaking to that issue very
Senator has the
briefly.
floor.
Let me be clear. These are private contracts. When people give a conservation easement, it is a transaction by which they are giving an easement to a private party. We simply have said down here that these are favored transactions, and the Commonwealth of Virginia gives a tax credit if you engage in these transactions. But they are transactions between private parties, and we are ex post facto determining with this legislation how those contracts between private parties are going to be interpreted.
What purpose does the senator from Prince William, Senator McPike, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator from Fairfax City yield for a question?
Senator Yield. Senator Yields, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one quick property rights question.
Sure.
To follow up based on its earlier testimony. Is the senator from Fairfax City going to return the property back to the senator from Roanoke County, the said pen of Kiggins for Senate?
Senator has the floor.
I'll do whatever she wants.
Further question?
Further, I guess, correction, Mr. President. I believe it's the property of the senator from Roanoke County. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking to, I guess, both the substituted by the senator from King George, Senator Stewart, as well as the amendments by the original patron, let me just say this. I've listened with fascination to this debate, and it dawned on me that there are perhaps some folks that are going back and forth like a ping pong, agreeing with certain parts of various senators' soliloquy and disagreeing with others. So I try to simplify things whenever I can, and I'm going to try to do that now and then tell you how I'm voting. If you believe conservation easements are good, and I do, and if you think taking somebody's property rights without compensation is bad, which I also agree with, then you've got to go to the next step. And you say this: all the gentleman from Fairfax City's legislation says is this, and I think it makes sense. Easements are to be construed in favor of the conservation easement for which they were created. That only makes intuitive sense. You get some money, you create an easement, and they should be interpreted or construed in favor of that conservation easement. The problem in this debate is that we have had some examples which I think is throwing some of the members off. The gentleman from Rockingham County talked about the wedding for his daughter. Here's how that would resolve itself. He wants to have a wedding for a daughter. Somebody has an easement and it says, you can't obstruct the view. The senator from Rockingham says, having one wedding isn't in violation of this easement, I'm going to do it. The other person says, no, you're not. That obstructs the view and you're in contravention of this easement. So what do you do then? A judge will assess that. And a judge will say, and we've got to, and this is what it boils down to, we've got to believe that our judges, as fact finders, will do the right thing. And I'm thinking almost all judges would say the following: you know, that wedding that you're having for your daughter is going to create a stage, and you may have some banners up and some balloons up, and it may obstruct the view for that night, but it's not in contravention of the terms of the easement. So go ahead and have your wedding. Now, if the senator from Rockingham decides that he wants to turn it into a wedding venue with a permanent structure, and that permanent structure tends to violate or obstruct the view, then the judge might have the opposite decision. So with great deference to my friend from King George, because I am, among other things, a lot of libertarian blood flowing through these veins. I don't want to take somebody's property rights without contravention. And with great deference to it, I am going to ask the body to vote against the substitute by Senator Stewart and agree with me that all the gentleman from Fairfax City's legislation says is the following: easements are to be construed in favor of the conservation easement for which they were created. If that makes sense to you, then perhaps you'll vote the same way. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is Senator from King George, Senator Stewart, rise?
Mr. President, if nobody else wishes to speak, I'd like to finish up.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And let me just be clear. I support what the gentleman from Fairfax City is doing. But as my friend from Eastern Fairfax pointed out much more eloquently than I can, we never do this retroactively. We never adopt legislation affecting contracts that people did 50 years ago. And that's all I'm asking for you all to stick with today. Let's do this going forward. That's all my substitute says. It's the gentleman from Fairfax City's bill, but it says prospectively the easements that we take in going forward, and we let the people know the change in the law. It's just a simple matter of fairness. It is completely unfair to change the rules on people in midstream when they expected one thing in their bargain and now they get another. Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry, are we voting on the committee amendment first?
That's correct, Senator.
I would ask everybody to vote against the committee amendment so that we may then get to the floor substitute to vote on.
Thank the senator. Regarding Senate Bill 1199, the question is, shall the committee amendment be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are adopted. Seeing at least 8 hands, we will have a recorded vote. A black cat just walked past the door, too, so I don't know what that means for this vote, but. Involve Senator Stanley, certainly. Question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 23, noes 16.
Ayes 23, noes 16. The committee amendments are adopted. And as a result of that vote, as you heard earlier, the floor substitute is now ruled out of order.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and passed on to third reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1136, a bill relating to special license plates removal, reported from the Committee on Transportation with amendment.
Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make a motion, I believe, that is unambiguous, that the bill go by for the day so the Department of Motor Vehicles could offer some technical amendments.
Thank the senator. Without objection, Senate Bill 1136 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 1229, A bill to authorize the issuance of special license plates for supporters of Ducks Unlimited bearing the legend Ducks Unlimited fees. Reported from the Committee on Transportation with a substitute.
Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move the substitute be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1263, a bill relating to traffic regulation bicycles. Reported from the Committee on Transportation.
The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, speaking to SB 1263. Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and passed along to its third constitutional reading.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading.
Senate Bill 1329, a bill relating to promises to appear after the issuance of a summons. Reported from the Committee on Transportation.
Senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 1366, a bill relating to aging services social need. Reported from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services with a substitute.
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be passed by for the day.
Thank the senator. Without objection, Senate Bill 1366 will go by for the day.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
Senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all Senate bills on first reading on the uncontested, and regular calendar, pages 14 through 16, that's Senate Bill 1248 through 1393, that the rules be suspended, the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended in the first reading of the titles of the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 14 through 16, Senate Bills 1248 through Senate Bill 1393 be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senator desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 0.
Ayes 36, noes 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
I now move those bills go by for the day.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading go by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Uncontested calendar, Senate joint resolutions on second reading.
Senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all Senate joint resolutions on the second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 16 through 17, that's SJR 276 through SJR 308, that they be advanced to their engrossment and third reading in a block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and any senator desiring to remove resolution from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall all Senate joint resolutions on second reading on the uncontested calendar, pages 16 through 17, Senate Joint Resolution 276 through Senate Joint Resolution 308, be engrossed in advance to their third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring to remove a resolution from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will read the number of the resolutions.
Senate Joint Resolution 276, reported from the Committee on Rules. Senate Joint Resolution 286, reported from the Committee on Rules. Senate Joint Resolution 292, reported from the Committee on Rules. Senate Joint Resolution 294, reported from the Committee on Rules with amendments.
Senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, move the committee amendments.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee amendments be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are adopted.
Senate Joint Resolution 308, reported from the Committee on Rules with amendments.
Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas. Do you want to move the committee amendments?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee amendment be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to. The question is, shall the Senate joint resolutions be engrossed in advance to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The joint resolutions are engrossed in advance to their third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate Joint Resolution on second reading. Senate Joint Resolution 285, continuing the joint subcommittee to study barrier crimes and criminal history records checks report, reported from the Committee on Rules. Regular calendar. Sorry.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate Joint Resolution 285 be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the resolution be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate Resolution on second reading. Senate Resolution 91, expressing the censure of the Senate, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections, and there is a floor substitute.
Senator from Loudoun County, Senator Bell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll waive reading.
Question is, shall the reading of the floor substitute be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor substitute is waived. Senator from Loudoun County, Senator Bell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the floor substitute and speaking to that motion.
Senator, has the floor.
The floor substitute narrows and simplifies the resolution that was reported. And with that, I move the resolution.
Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a point of parliamentary question of the germaneness of the substitute, and I would like to request a recess.
Without objection? How long would the senator want to remain in recess?
15 minutes.
15 minutes? Without objection? The inquiry has been made, and the Senate will remain in recess for 15 minutes. Come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Returning to Senate Resolution 91 on page 18, there was a parliamentary inquiry with regard to germaneness of the floor substitute. Considering the matter and considering the arguments that have been made, we would like to actually have 5 minutes allotted to the patron and to the senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase, to further elaborate their arguments with regard to germaneness on the floor substitute. So would like to begin with the patron, Loudoun County Senator Bell. You'll have a strict 5 minutes. It'll be limited just to yourself and to the senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase, to discuss just the issue of germaneness with regard to your floor substitute that is proposed, and a ruling will be forthcoming after that. So, Senator from Loudoun County, Senator Bell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The resolution that was presented in the committee was a censure resolution, and it focused on 2 things: not a breach of the oath of office and conduct unbecoming a senator. The floor substitute was narrowed down to just conduct unbecoming a senator. There was deference made in the committee of freedom of speech. And even though freedom of speech is not absolute, you can't yell fire in a theater, there was some deference made to that. In regard to that, that's why it was narrowed down to just conduct unbecoming. But clearly, both are censures, both are on the same subject, and conduct unbecoming was in the original resolution. It's in the resolution in the final. I believe it is directly germane. To save the body in respect, I really don't have anything else to add. I will say that in regards to the matter, the senior senator from Chesterfield did not testify at the committee. She phoned in near the end, but I also, after that, then gave her an opportunity on this floor to offer an apology and condemn the unacceptable actions on January 6th. What she did, I think, in my opinion, fell far short, and many others did. That's why we're here today. So with that, I will conclude my remarks.
Thank the senator. The senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I still continue to argue the germaneness. I think we are desperately searching for straws here. The original resolution, Mr. President, references Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, and the body and the intent and the spirit of the first resolution, which is completely absurd, is saying that that my statements, my inflammatory statements and actions led to an insurrection of the United States Capitol, which is completely ridiculous. And so I believe that the patron of the bill has realized how absurd his comments are and has tried to come up with another reason to try to embarrass me before the Commonwealth of Virginia. Mr. President, I would argue that the basis of the first resolution references the Constitution of the United States and is under the premise that I've somehow incited an insurrection, whereas the substitute is completely different. Completely different. Mr. President, I would argue that this is all free speech. As a state senator, I don't lose my rights to free speech, whether you like them or not, whether they're inflammatory or not. Mr. President, I can go through the whole list of new additional things that I have said exercising my free speech that were not even in the original spirit of the first resolution that was drafted. This is completely different. I mean, if you want to bring this, the patron wants to bring this up, I invite him to bring it in the form of another bill. But they're not germane. They are not the same censure resolution, Mr. President. And I would further conclude that, we're not even referencing the basis of the first bill, which was the Constitution. That's not even in this document in the second substitute. And so I just really think that the patron needs to get a different bill if he's going to bring this up. That's what I would be told to do if this were my bill. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. Having heard the arguments and reviewed the background materials, the floor substitute, and the original Senate resolution, along with the rules of the Senate, Chair rules that the floor substitute is, in fact, germane. Senator from Loudoun County, Senator Bell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the floor substitute.
Question is, shall the floor substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor substitute is adopted. Senator from Loudoun County, Senator Bell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we engross the bill and move it on to its third constitutional reading.
Question is, shall the resolution be engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Mr. President,
sorry, Senior Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
I'd like to ask if this bill go by for the day.
Any objection?
Mr. President, for the good of the body, I object.
Senator from Loudoun County, Senator Bell objects. Senator, like to take a voice vote? The Senior Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase, on your motion. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I don't have a copy of the rules with me, but Madam Clerk might be able to help us. I think that resolution may have is a priority consideration. You may want to give some thought to that, Mr. President.
Does that mean it can't go by? The will of the body? What purpose does the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Parliamentary inquiry. We're determining right now the senior senator from Chesterfield County's motion to pass this by, not indefinitely, but for the day. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the motion that's been made.
Speaking to that motion,
Senators,
Mr. President, we almost always, and I realize I have been in the Senate for only a year, give our fellow senators the courtesy of passing by a motion or a bill for the day. In this particular case, the senior senator from Chesterfield County raised In this case, the senior senator from Chesterfield County raised an inquiry as to whether or not the substitute was germane. You've discussed that, you've debated that. In order to afford her both the courtesy as well as due process to consider any arguments that she might want to make regarding this amendment in the nature of a substitute, I think that her motion to pass it by for the day should be granted. We will take it up. We will take it up this week. It gives her the opportunity, which anyone would want, to be able to marshal their arguments in a cogent fashion before the body. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the Senator. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. As someone who sometimes stands up and talks about the decorum and tradition of the Senate, I may find myself a little inconsistent, but Mr. President, I would say, first of all, if you look under Rule 53 of the rules of the Senate, you will see that this resolution is a preferenced situation, which is a little different than a normal piece of legislation that is working its way through. And so I think that the objection that I'm making to passing it by for the day is well grounded in the rules. If I look at it, Mr. President, from a pragmatic standpoint, and I'm very sensitive to the conscience that the junior senator from Richmond just expressed, I do not find it a discourtesy, even if there was no Rule 53 that dealt with these situations. If I listen to the senator who has sponsored this resolution, the senator from Loudoun, he indicated that the senior senator from Chesapeake did not afford herself the opportunity of appearing before the Privileges and Elections Committee when this matter was discussed. Mr. President, I further suggest that the issue of germaneness can be raised at any time, and I appreciate the time that you and the clerk staff took at reviewing the elements of germaneness. I further say, Mr. President, that I don't think that it disadvantages the senior senator from Chesapeake, from Chesterfield.
Mr. President.
Oh boy, I almost got.
No, that was twice.
Cosgrove. I don't think it disadvantages her that she can make the same spurious arguments regardless when we take this matter up. So I would formally object to carrying the matter over for another day.
Mr. President.
Senior Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. While I respect what has been said on the floor, on a personal level, my mother-in-law had open heart surgery today. My mother-in-law had open heart surgery today, and I need to go check on my mother-in-law, and I will not be preparing statements for this tonight.
Mr. President.
Senator from Loudoun County, Senator Bell.
It's taken us a long time to get to this point, but I don't want to lose heart as this to our colleagues. I would like to get this over, and I think most everybody would, but I'll withdraw my objection. If the senior senator from Chesterfield wants another day, I'm all right with it.
Senator withdraws his objection. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, out of respect to the senator from Loudoun and not attributable to tears, I will withdraw my objection.
Senator withdraws his objection. The motion was for the resolution to go by for the day, and without objection, Resolution 91 will go by for the day. Senate will be at ease for 5 minutes. Returning to judicial nominations and elections. Now is the time for the rolls to be called. All in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 99 to be judges of the respective circuit courts will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all
Mr. President.
Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
President, I did not realize we were going to get right on this. I want to abstain from voting on.
Senator, I'm sorry. If you don't mind, pause right there. I want to just strike the vote before we continue.
I did it.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to take the person mentioned on lines 4 and 5 out of the block.
All right. Without objection, the nominee on lines 4 and 5 will be removed from the block. All in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 99 to be judges of the respective circuit courts, with the exception of nominees on lines 4 through 5, will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 0, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 37, noes 0, Rule 36-1. Returning to the nominee taken out of the block, the question is, all in favor of the nominee of the Senate on lines 4 through 5, as named by Senate Resolution 99 to be a judge, will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 33, noes 0.
Ayes 33, noes 0. All in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 100 to be judges of the respective general district courts will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0. All in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 101 to be judges of the respective juvenile and domestic relations district courts will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0. As many as are in favor of the nominee of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 102 to be a member of the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0. As many as are in favor of the nominees of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 103 to be members of the State Corporation Commission will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 32, noes 0.
Ayes 32, noes 0. As many as are in favor of the nominee of the Senate as named by Senate Resolution number 93 to be the Auditor of Public Accounts will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 0.
Ayes 38, noes 0. The chair appoints Senators Boysko, Morrissey, and Peake, the committee on the part of the Senate, to count and report the vote of each House in each case. The Senate will stand at ease. The joint order under House Joint Resolution number 628 will be resumed. The clerk will read the report of the committee to count the vote.
The committee has reported as follows: number of votes necessary to elect in the House of Delegates 51, in the Senate 20.
The chair recognizes the senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the reading of the report be waived.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the report be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote?
Senator Vogel, how do you vote?
Senator Vogel votes aye.
Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 33, noes 1.
Ayes 33, noes 1. The reading of the report is waived. Those named in the report as having received the vote of a majority of the members elected to each House of the General Assembly are declared duly elected as judges of the respective circuit courts, general district courts, and juvenile and domestic relations district courts, as a member of the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission, as members of the State Corporation Commission, and as the Auditor of Public Accounts for the terms that have been set forth. No nominee having received the vote of a majority of the members elected to each House of the General Assembly, no election has resulted for the office of a judge of the General District Court of the 12th Judicial District for a term of 6 years commencing April 1st, 2021, or for a member of the Judicial Inquiry and Review Commission for a term of 4 years commencing July 1st, 2021. The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Sasslaw.
Mr. President, I'd inquire of the clerk, does that finally complete the calendar for today?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other business to come before the Senate?
A filibuster.
Do any senators wish to be recognized? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Tuesday, January 26th, the Committee on Privileges and Elections completed their docket during the recess. The Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources has been canceled, and the Education and Health Subcommittee on Health will not meet. Tomorrow, Wednesday, January 27th, the Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Public Safety will meet at 7:30 a.m. in the West Committee Room. Senators Lucas, Norman, Ruff, Edwards, Peterson, Marsden, and Eben. The Commerce and Labor Subcommittee on Energy will meet at 8 a.m. East Committee Room. Senators Spruill, Norman, Newman, Lucas, and Marsden. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 9 a.m. West Committee Room. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in the Democratic Caucus Room. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in the Republican Caucus Room. And thanks to all of you for being so patient during our technology glitch.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? For purposes, the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator Morrissey, rise.
I've got it. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I know that agricultural, the second half of the docket was canceled. Do we have a new time, Madam Clerk, for the reconvening of Agriculture Committee?
No, sir. We don't.
Madam Chair.
Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
I would ask the gentleman, it's my plan, I think we could take up all the remaining bills next Tuesday, but I'll check with the Rules Committee Chair to see if that's possible. That would be my expectation.
Thank the Senator. Seeing no further business, I call on the Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.